Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. This is our monthly meetup on Bhagavad Gita. And what I want to do today is I want to see where people are. We went through Bhagavad Gita and it was quite an experience for me and for many of us. It was an immensely ambitious undertaking to try to take on Bhagavad Gita in its full depth and try to engage with the text. And that's what so many of us did. So what I want to do is I want to first look at the results. I would love for everybody who has participated in these meetups to talk about what they got from it. Okay, what they have learned. We'll start with that. Start with people who have attended many of the Gita meetups. We did almost 100 of them. Okay, so that's like 200 hours of material we all went through. So first, people who are new, I welcome you with open heart. But what I want to do first is this is a community that learns together. So I want to give a chance first for people who have been, all of us who have been learning together, to talk about the experience. And the purpose of doing that is to see where we are and possibly see some directions in which we can go from here on a monthly basis. All right. So here's an invitation for anybody who's attended multiple of these Bhagavad Gita meetups, at least 5, to talk about what they got from it, what they got from the Gita, what ideas of Gita remain with you. Please take your time. You can take up to 5 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes, 1 to 5 minutes. If you have a brief comment, that's fine too. If you want to talk for 5 minutes, that's fine too. I would love to hear and see where we go from there, because where we go from there depends on what we hear. So, all right. So who would like to go first? Let's start with Evanik.
Hi, Shrikant, everyone. So the first concept that stuck with me the most is the center versus the periphery. I love the concept of the center being who you are as a person and who you were created to be. And I think it gets to the heart of it, and that in order to be who you truly are, you have to let go of the things that you are not. And sometimes those are things that you are attached to. And some of those things that you're attached to is the fruit of your works, rather than the work itself. And when you let go of your attachment to things such as, your job, or, money, or even things that hold you back, like if it's your family that's not allowing you to be who you are, you can let it go. And it's not easy. And, you see that through the Gita. You see Arjun struggling with that from chapter 1, where you have that scene of war, and he's looking over the battlefield, and he realizes it's his family, it's his friends, it's his teacher, it's people he loves that's over there, and now he has to go to war. And when I first started studying the Gita with this group, I was like, what kind of book is this? And then you slowly but surely see through listening to the Gita, um, what what that truly means. And it's giving up attachment, but it's also giving up attachment to, and Yogeshwar was great at this, habits or things that you've used to cope with life, letting that go if it's detrimental. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the 3 yokes, is the Jnana yoke, Bhakti yoke, and Karma yoke. And how do you use those 3 yokes to get to the center? And you can use all 3, and you do at some point. Um, I love that, it's not, you can choose one path, you can choose two paths, you can choose three paths. Um, bhakti being devotion to Yana being knowledge and karma action. I think they all go together. Um, because you need all three to get to the center, but one is going to be like your main course. And I love that. And I think for me, it's knowledge combined with action. Um, I think it's knowledge first, trying to get to know getting to know the Gita, and using that to get to my center. Um, I think I wanted to say something else, but I think that's it for right now. But that was the main concept that always stuck with me, and applying it to my life and to realize when I'm attached to something, like even my reputation, I'm kind of attached to it. And realizing that if I know who I am and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do to get to the center, and um and I'm focused on that, it doesn't matter what the attachments are. It doesn't matter what people are saying about me. It doesn't matter about my reputation. I know who I am. I know where I stand, and that's where the confidence comes from. So that's my
Wonderful, beautifully put. And if after speaking, if anybody wants to add anything at a later point, just go ahead and type exclamation mark. Love to hear from everybody, because it's such a deep work, and each of us engage it. Each of us come from our own context, and each of us engages it in an authentic way, in a very different way. And it's so rich that by seeing these different engagements with it, all of us learn. So thank you very much, Evanique. Next up is going to be Joe, followed by Penny, and I invite everybody who experienced this to share their thoughts. Joe.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was truly transformative. It brought me back uh, to a place that I needed to be, um, more on a spiritual level. So when, um, I have spoken here many times about Stoicism and how important it is to me. There are things that you control and not control, and it has been critical to me moving forward in my life. But there's there's something still maybe missing, I would say. And the Gita has helped fill what I was missing. And it was helping me see the divinity in each individual. And that's a deeper step than the rational mind will necessarily allow you to take. So what does that mean? You know, it's very much in the same lines of what Evanique has just shared. It's many ways through the yogas, but it's understanding the ego and detaching yourself from the ego. It's really what is really bothering you at your core, because then that prevents you, if you don't deal with that, it prevents you from acting out with love. So you're looking inside to go out. And that was critical for me. So what it did was it not only took the ideas that maybe, that Stoicism gives you, where you're looking at, the rational, the externals, and why they shouldn't bother you, but it took it to a deeper level. Because once you can start to deal with your ego and yourself, you start to have a greater knowledge of yourself. You can start to see the divinity, not only in everybody, but in everything around you. And so that's what it really has provided for me. Um, you know, with this, what does it do? Like, what do you say to that? Well, you know, you uh, you realize how things like envy kind of go away. You know, it's not perfect. There are times where I feel envious of someone else, but then I think back to what our lessons are. You know, understanding karma yoga, understanding bhakti yoga, as far as you know, respecting each individual, no matter what they may do to you, or no matter what may have happened to you in the past, that you truly see them as, and we've seen this somewhat in the Gospel of John, but a child of God in a way. But you see the God inside, again, the divinity of each one of them. But there's also this beautiful element that I find the Gita is truly holistic in how it actually approaches the world, in the sense that it doesn't ignore things like self-care and meditation, and the importance of concentration within that framework. You know, these are things that are very practical, that and you know, it's unique, I got to be honest, you know, in the sense that many times people talk about sacrifice and giving, you know, and doing good for others, but they don't necessarily look at, you know, Raja Yoga or something, you know, along those lines. And so again, and I think, yes, the understanding yourself and being able to be seeing, you know, the divinity in yourself, it really does allow you to see the divinity in everybody else. And again, so it's very much complemented my stoicism, and it's also, in another level, is that it's opened my mind to other works. Like, we read the Gospel of John almost, you know, first, and the Gospel of John we've come back to, and after going through the Gita with the Yogeshwar, the Gospel of John means a lot more, and you can you see the beauty in it. Now you see some of the commonalities, and you see some of the differences that we've covered, right? But the really important point to recognize here is that without the Gita, I wouldn't have seen that. So it restored something in me that had been lost, and for that, I'm eternally grateful. And I'm also grateful for the especially Yogeshwar's you know, tireless, like, kind of work with us. I mean, he really had, we could go back and listen to those videos anytime we have a question, and really learn about the metaphysics that underpin the Gita, and we can learn about any, you know, the limits of rationality, where he spoke about that at length in certain cases, and the I mean, I can go on and on. And so you know, it was truly transformative, because again, something had been lost, but now it's been found.
Thank you so much, Joe. I mean, that was very profound. I think that is what these works can do. They can show you something. You know, I like the terms that you use, transformative. You know, finding something that you've lost. That's what these great works, you know, allow you to do. You know, they kind of touch you, and they show you something that is so fundamental that the way you look at everything changes. So thank you so much. Next up is going to be Penny, Jyoti, and Madhav. Penny.
Okay. Yeah, I also, well, I like a lot of course, what Vineek and Joe already said, but for me, I also found it very eye-opening. And one of the concepts that first really caught my attention was the concept of the Atman. that each of us has, part of the divine spirit in him, and that everything in the universe has part of this design spirit. So you began to feel more of a holistic view, looking toward the world. I have found that I am much more open and excited and enthusiastic about the process of living after reading the Gita. It's like kind of like put you back to more childlike view of the world, where it's not like, oh, I know everything, I know what's going on. It's more like, oh, let me look at this and in a new, fresh way. And so I thought that was something that really I learned. I like the namaste. And every time you hear that, because I like to do yoga, you go back and you think, okay, they're really saying that the spirit in me is recognizing the divine spirit in the other people. And I know personally, after reading the Gita and reading about like the yoga of meditation and concentration, which I never had done, I am trying to do it several days a week. I am working on trying to tame a little bit my mind and be able to concentrate on something. And a few times I have kind of, I see like a light where the third eye is and stuff like that. So, and one of the expressions Brian and I have picked up is slowly by slowly, because Yogeshwar used to say that. So, we talk sometimes about things and we say, well, slowly by slowly, that it's a gradual process. And I think we'll always say that now. But I really, so I really like that. And I guess the other three things are, was like the Prakriti and the three gunas that, that the world is pretty complex and there's a lot of different aspects of it. And you're going to be facing those in yourself and other people. And so, anyway, those are some of the things that I learned.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you can say slowly by slowly in the Indian accent. That would be very authentic. So anyway, and folks, feel free to repeat what other people have said, because really we want to share what is it that we got, even if it is the same thing as somebody else got, doesn't matter. Just want to hear what everybody got. Next up is going to be Jyoti. Jyoti, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I was an ardent fan of Yogeshwar, and Yogeshwar, like I will use the word, was very transformative for all of us, from what I'm hearing from Evanik, from Joe, Penny, and what have you. I had written a letter to Yogeshwar, so I'm going to read it to you because that entails every aspect of my learning from him. And I was so grateful that he changed me as a person. So please bear with me. Yogeshwar, I'm taking this opportunity to thank you for spending selfless and countless number of hours in walking us through the 18 chapters of Gita. I have to admit that before your lectures, I had rudimentary knowledge about the founding principles of life as cited in Gita. Attending to your lectures was a growing experience. I understood Gita like I did not before. It is difficult to quote all the verses that touched my soul. However, I must say that familiarization of essence of karma, gunas, yogas, evolution of svabhava, and swadharma had a deep impact on me. The examples quoted by you to make us understand were easily understood. Now I can say with confidence that I reflect on these concepts and I'm utilizing them in my daily life. As you said, patience and determination are needed together in the divine path. I am looking at all these components very seriously. It is very easy to give up in life or use only one of the components. However, in order to accomplish a task, you need both of them. Your explanation of Brahma, Atma, center, and periphery, attention, and discipline have sat very well with me. Center and periphery are the most precious tools that I'm carrying with me for the rest of my life. I will be sharing my thoughts in the forthcoming Gita meetings, and they will help me and others always remember what we learned from you. So I will say here again, I'm thanking you for providing all of us the precious wisdom and knowledge. It really was an honor to participate in all the presentations. So having said that, in addition to what I wrote to him, I would say the concept of manifest, unmanifest, and ultimate, and that made so much sense after he explained the way he did. And Shrikant, you had said they are like principles of life. We have them embedded in the principles of life, but we don't realize that. And when we perform the rituals are ultimate. They are the unmanifestations. But people think that that is something that can only be achieved in heaven, but it is here on this earth. And that made so much sense to me. And his teachings about desire and anger, how the desire ties us to everything. And in order to, when we don't get our desires met, we become angry, crowed. We will do anything and everything to get what we want. And that is tied up to our desires. How you have to give up and just stay detached from all the desires, I understood the way it should have been understood. Um, and everything else he said about looking at the big picture rather than a small picture and taking a decision. And he gave an example of window, looking at from the window, a small box of the window, a big scenery of the nature. And you are looking at, small scenery of the nature. But what lies is a bigger nature, which you have no vision about. And once you have to have a complete vision in order to form some kind of a decision in your life. And I think it was so well said. And his example of boats swirling, and you had to be very patient, and you have to go with it rather than go against it. So all those things that when I think about, they give me a very peaceful feeling, and nothing that I should work impulsively on or get angry about. And what Joe said about ego, and he had just gone at length to explain to us how ego can come in the way and change a person. And in order to see your atmas, your center, you have to let go of your ego. So I can go on, but this Gita, I don't know if anybody else would have gotten this kind of experience that we all got. We all felt transformed at the end. We felt like, wow, what was that? How did we get so insightful? And that didn't come overnight, because this helped us to imply all those teachings in every day, and which we are even doing now. At least I'm still doing it now. And I always remember what Yogeshwar would have said. Stop. Think. Thank you, Shrikant, for providing us Yogeshwar's lectures and teachings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jyoti. Really, really appreciate that. And thank you for sharing that letter, your letter to Yogeshwar. I think it captures how many, many, many of us feel about that, just the gratefulness. And it's kind of combination of very deep learning and very simple humility of communicating that to anybody who wants to listen. So he had this amazing combination of deep learning and most natural human way of talking to human beings. So just it was an honor to have him here. Next up is going to be Madhav, followed by Rupali, and then Joe. Folks, if anybody wants to share anything, please go ahead and do that. After everybody has spoken, we'll go for the seconds. Okay. Next up is going to be Madhav. Madhav, go ahead.
For me, it gave a way to meditate while I am about the world, walking around the world. I mean, when you meditate with your eyes closed or down, it's in a particular setting. But Bhagavad Gita gives a way to meditate without having to sit down, fold your hands, and cross your legs. The whole story of Mahabharata, I think it's not just about Arjun, it's actually that we are Arjun, and that Sri Krishna, the Divine Lord or the universe, is giving us this message, and in front of us is a extremely tough war where we have to fight our, not literally, but in a way, our own relatives. And this message is like a way to meditate upon without having to do the conventional way of meditation.
Wonderful, beautifully put. I mean, that's very, very profound, because meditation all the time, it's basically saying that you have that within you, and all you have to do is to act from that, see the world from that, and that is yours all the time, regardless of whatever is going on within, around you or in you. Also, I love the point about Arjun. We are Arjun. All of us are Arjuns, and Krishna is talking to us. He's talking just like he's talking lovingly to his friend, and his friend is going back and forth. He's in all kinds of states, and it's a conversation, and it is you. It is for you. So beautifully put. Thank you. Next up is going to be Rupali. Rupali, go ahead.
It was
There is a problem with your sound.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So I would say for me, it was a very transformative experience, just like many of the speakers have said. And I was familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, but I really learned to be at peace with myself during this reading and learning about it. The other thing is the virtues or the values that Bhagavad Gita teaches, and I'm learning to slowly internalize them. Again, like Penny said, slowly by slowly, I'm on that path. And I have been meditating pretty much every day, and having that idea of sthita prajna in front of me every morning and saying, this is who I am. Everything is at peace and in perfect harmony in that state. And then to be able to focus and meditate on what I need to do or how I want to do things. My days have been just very, I would just say things just happen easily. They just flow. I don't feel like I'm struggling with things. There's a natural flow to things. And I know on the days that I skip my meditation or don't focus, like Madhav said, you can meditate anywhere, anytime. You just have to bring yourself to that center. And the days that I don't do that, I can see how crazy things can get. So in so many ways, Bhagavad Gita has helped me kind of just accept my own nature, accept who I am, accept others as they are, and then figure out how we can work together. The other thing is the texts like Sermon to the Dead, Sermons to the Dead, and Gospel of John, those texts have become accessible to me because this Bhagavad Gita has laid the foundation for those. And then, in poetry, Shrikant, you introduced us to Gitanjali, and I'm enjoying that, and just devotion expressed so beautifully. So I just feel that Bhagavad Gita is kind of the base from where everything else is flowing, and I'm just enjoying that ride. So thank you for doing this, and Yogeshwar's contribution is just outstanding. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Rupali. Joe also made this point that studying Bhagavad Gita or studying one of these works, in a very deep way, because what happens is that, like, most of the times people approach the work in a ritualistic way. So you have, growing up in India, you have the rituals. But what this communing with the text itself does is that it really shows you the ideas behind it. And you're able to, especially with, I think Yogeshwar did such a fantastic job of very patiently showing us from multiple, he had his own metaphors that he would use in order to point to the truth of these things within you so that you can experience them yourself to whatever extent, which gives you a foundation of actually accessing these works. And at a very deep level, all these works are talking about just human beings. They're just talking about human existence, about reality, and about who we are. And understanding one of them suddenly opens up all of them to you. And something like Bhagavad Gita is so comprehensive, so deep, and it explores so many aspects. And I particularly like the conversation format. So it is not spoken to like millions of people. No, it is one-on-one conversation between friends. And that's how the depth of the human experience is explored. So thank you so much. Next up is going to be Brian, followed by Marco and Anna. Brian.
So as I've said before, I also found the Gita to be transformative in Yogeshar's presentation. Thank you, Shrikant, for arranging all that. It was just amazing. And everybody else for participating and contributing. I don't have anything to add in terms of the substance. I will say that I've continued to pursue the transformation. I do yoga once an hour every day for an hour, and then it's a guided yoga. I don't do it on my own. And then I think more importantly, I do the online. There's a whole series of presentations by the Vedanta Society of New York, a Swami there who is really very, very good, and along the line, not obviously, I'd say along the lines of Yogeshwar, in that he's very steeped in all of this and able to relate it to people from the West. They're obviously different personalities, but I'm getting a lot out of that too. And what he's presenting now is, I wouldn't say now, it's all on YouTube as recordings. What he has presented and is available on YouTube is the Upanishads. And I went through the Mandukya Upanishad, which is one of, I guess, supposed to be one of the central ones. Partly because and I didn't realize this before, the Mandukya says at the end, if you didn't get it, if you still don't get it after listening to this, then do these 10 other Upanishads. So he lists that one, and then at the end he lists 10 others, and then he says at the end, if you still don't get it after doing these 10, then do all the rest, and there's 108 altogether. So anyway, I think I started at the right place, and I really like the way that this Swami is presenting. So I just thought I'd let everybody know I am continuing to pursue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. And Yogeshwar had said, I had asked Yogeshwar, if you wanted to do something, what would you choose? And Mandukya Upanishad is something that he had particularly highlighted as being the best place to start. So Penny, please communicate that to Brian. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next up is going to be Marco, followed by Anna. Marco.
Definitely just most of the things that was already said, like that, the God in me, seeing the God in others, and I'm still working on that. Like I'm not there yet, but yeah, I'm still working on that. And also the detaching from desire, and detaching oneself from emotion. Again, also like I'm working on that. And also things like that, that I'm the ocean, and not the waves. And also that that emotions aren't the master of the house. That's like something that I always remember that Yogeshwar said. And definitely, like, I've noticed a lot of that I'm a bit more in control of my emotions. I have more self-control, but yeah, definitely have a lot more to go to work on that. Yeah, and that's it. And just realizing how it was just an amazing experience. Just realizing it, it was just really amazing.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Marco. Because what happens is that, each of us gets transformed in our own way, and we have to kind of honestly talk about what it is. And what happens is that the beautiful thing about Gita is that it gives you, each person, his own path. So you pick up whatever you can, and you move as best as you can on the paths that you have chosen, and you make progress, because each of us is different. So even kind of embracing of that is a very big idea in Gita. So thank you so much, Marco. Anna, I know you have not attended many of the meetups, but would love to hear your comments, and then we will go to Joe, followed by Evanique. Anna, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Yes, actually, this is my first time attending. I read it on my own. I would like to start by reading two small paragraphs.
Sure.
As unnecessary as a well is to a village on the banks of a river, so unnecessary are all the scriptures to someone who has seen the truth. When your understanding has passed beyond the thicket of delusions, there is nothing you need to learn from even the most sacred scripture. So I've always struggled with authority and religion generally. I felt like I'm growing. While growing up, I felt like God will punish me. So I grew up very scared, and reading the Gita actually allowed me to follow my own path and be okay with it. Thank you for letting me share.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Really appreciate that. I mean, that is the hallmark of Gita, that Gita is spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. And that is a prototype of the interaction between God and man. You know, when Krishna was asked about Arjuna, he says, if I took all my relatives and put them on one side of the scale and put Arjuna on the other side, Arjuna would be heavier for me. And it is with that love that Krishna is communicating. And when Arjuna is asking questions, he does not feel anything to say, look, you said this, but you also said this. How can this be true? How can both of these be true? Or why don't you explain this to me in a clearer terms? You know where I am. I can't understand this. Or, or simply saying, look, this looks very tough for me because my mind is so quick and it moves this way and that way. And the best part is Krishna's reaction to all of that. He's delighted when he's asked, when Arjuna asks him these questions, because he says, oh, he actually wants to understand, and goes from there. So I really like that entire context. And it is the idea of God within you. And so it is like, there is one part, we read, I was going through Jnaneshwari, who's a commentary, which is a commentary on Gita. And at one point, Krishna panics because he says, wait a minute, Arjuna is making so much progress that he's going to become one with me. And then I'm going to lose my friend because he's going to become one with me. So whom am I going to embrace? Whom am I going to have chit chat with, so he's very much concerned about that. But see, that is a very different view of human beings and God. So thank you so much. Next up is going to be Joe, followed by Evanique. Folks, please go ahead and make your comments. Today we just want to let us speak about what we are getting from Gita. The purpose of that is to firstly celebrate what we have learned, talk to each other about what we have learned, and then hopefully use this as a base of seeing where we go from here. Joe.
Yeah. I want to really briefly comment. I mean, in the conversation that Arjuna and Krishna are having, I mean, it's true. The thing is, Arjuna wants to know. He's looking for answers, but they're the same answers that we're looking for. And that's why this is it's such a powerful story. In addition to the fact that we had, Yogeshwar clarifying, every aspect of what it meant in whatever the topic may have been. But the one important thing that, and it's kind of come up here, is the importance of this group and community going through it together and communing with the text in a meaningful way. Everybody had their own perspectives, and when you have that, you start to see everybody else's journey, and it helps you understand where you are, maybe, or what you may be missing on your journey. So the power of community and communing with the text, and this is why it's more important than ritual, is just really actually understanding, what is being said and why, and what is it saying to you. One of the things that I didn't mention, and the first time, and a lot of people have mentioned since, was the center and periphery. And it shouldn't be, overlooked of how much work that you did with that. I keep these with me all the time, and so the idea is that once you become closer to your core, there's a certain degree of peace that you have, and you know that you're moving in the right direction, and you know you're moving in the opposite direction if you're disturbed, or things are getting to you, or things are overwhelmed. And having that knowledge is, it gives you a baseline of how, or where do I need to go? And in a way, you could have the same conversation with Krishna in the sense that, well, where do I need to go? What do I need to do here in order to come back to the center, in order to become tranquil, and with this, once you understand that, then I find, and this is something else, is that it takes something like virtue that was just more theoretical, and it makes it much more real, because you now are coming to the center and you understand what true peace is. And I see it as you have to have things like courage, wisdom, understanding. These are no longer just concepts. It becomes very real, and you realize why are you disturbed, and in certain circumstances, and then you start to you can it becomes really an actionable text on top of that. So and we and your visuals helped, and you did several. They helped with both this and the Gospel of John, coming towards the light, coming towards the center. In some ways, they're very similar in that regard. Those made those concepts, at least visually, and so that we could actually grasp the concepts, even more. So very much appreciate your efforts in this as well. I mean, Yogeshwar is definitely, he gave us, things that will last with us forever. But, as have you, with this, with working on all the work you did with, the visual aspects of it, and clarifications as well in many cases. So, so that's all.
Thank you, Joe. Really appreciate that. I mean that's just how my mind works. I have to put it in visual terms. I have to do diagrams in order to understand things. Otherwise, I don't understand them. So that's just how I do things. I also want to say one thing, that I'm getting tremendous amount of value from Gospel of John. And the interesting thing about it is that both these works are trying to get at, the human spirit. What is it? And that's what both these works are trying to get at, the world and your soul, your spirit, your consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And it is really interesting that if it is unfamiliar, this pairing of Bhagavad Gita and Gospel of John has worked really, really well for me, because what it does is that it's the same kind of thing being done in such a different way that it allows you to see something which is very hard to see, hard to experience. And you have this two very different perspectives on it. And I think I get a lot from the Gospel of John, partly because it's unfamiliar to me, so that my mind doesn't automatically go on the familiar, ritualistic, traditional way of interpreting everything, and I'm trying to actually commune with the words. And I think that is also another reason why Gita speaks to so many of us. Now, it is true that it speaks a lot to people with the Indian background as well. And there also, it's a very interesting phenomenon. It's like, and this I've spoken to many, many friends who have had the Indian background, but actually communing with this text completely changes your view of what this religion is supposed to be, because you're seeing something really deep in it. So, and the other point that Joe makes, I think, is also crucial. I think the community here is crucial. I think we are learning so much from each other, because just listening to a consciousness trying to grapple with such subjects, that is a treat, that is very special. And each of us is trying to do that. So we are seeing this text from very different angles, very authentic angles. It's different experience, different words, different emphasis, noticing different things. And if you're open to what the other person is saying, then you can relate it to your own experience. And all of us leave far richer in our grasp of what we are trying to grasp than we could on our own. Now, I found this first with Tao Te Ching. No matter how, I love Tao Te Ching. And I would spend a lot of time trying to grasp each of the verses. But when I came and saw other people reading their own favorite verses, their favorite translations of the verses, then talking about it, it would just open up a completely new level of understanding, because it was this crowdsourced, or there is this envelope of conversation with real people trying to engage with this work. All of these works are so incredibly deep that we can get some things, but there is always more to get. And I think doing it together helps that. Thank you, Joe. Next up is Evanique.
Yeah, just going, something that Marco said really reminded me of something else that Yogeshwar did, is the control of emotions. And I think also recognizing emotions, and not just recognizing them, but acknowledging them. And what I mean by that is acknowledging that they're there and not acting out of emotions. You can see how Yogeshwar, when he taught about, I think it was chapter 4, where he talked about, emotions, and, controlling your emotions, and, actually recognizing your emotions and knowing what you're feeling and not denying what you feel, really acknowledging it, and then moving forward. And I love that. And I think one of the things I noticed that you get about Yogeshwar is that he was always very calm. And I think that's something else that Gita gives, is a calmness and a peacefulness. And I know other speakers have talked about it. That kind of, and I know Brian and Penny especially, they talked about it, that it gives you this peace, beyond what is happening. I love the phrase that Brian and Penny uses, slowly but slowly. I think that's And it's just beautiful because you're getting it slowly by adopting these principles that you learned from the Gita. I think that another thing that people were talking about was namaste, seeing the God in me, seeing the God in me and seeing the God in you. The God in me sees the God in you. And I think that's just a profound point, because when you treat people as if God is in them, I think Joe said it too, it's like it doesn't matter what they do to you. You're going to treat them in the way that God is in them. And if you see the God in them, you see them past their attachments and past their emotions and past their desires. And I think it was Rupali that was also, no, it wasn't Rupali. Someone was talking about, I think it was either Jyoti or Madhav. They were talking about desires. And yeah, Jyoti talking about giving up the desires, because when you don't get those desires, how do you react? You're willing, if you're in the periphery, you're willing to do anything to get to those desires. And that's why I think what another thing about these meetups is that Yogeshwar went through, like, I think it was a couple of sessions, um, a couple of sessions about desire, and you know why you have to detach from that. Because if you're like looking at like fulfilling your desires, you'll never really get there. There'll always be something else. There will always be something else that you desire. And what I took from that is that, you know, look at the center, look at who you want to be, look at where you want to go, and look at who you are as a person, and who do you desire to be, in a sense, as a person. Do you desire the center, which is probably the only thing we should really be desiring? Or do you desire things in the periphery like fame, money, wealth, respect from others? Like I said before, reputation. If you are attached to those things are not controlled by you. Joe had mentioned Stoicism, how it brings it together. I think I actually did start understanding Stoicism a little more after studying the Gita, because it's like you're aiming at something that you can't control. You can't control the money you make. You could go broke tomorrow for all you know. And hopefully nobody here does that, but um, you could lose everything. But if you're at the center, if you're focused on the center, that doesn't matter. You're focused on who you are and who you're going to be. You're going to be okay. Something you said, Shrikant, and I think it was in a in another meetup. It wasn't the Gita meetup. I asked you one time, how do you trust people knowing that they may hurt you? And you said, because the hurt can only go but so deep, and then you will rise out of it. And I think I got that from the Gita. If I'm worried about what other people are going to do to me, which I can't control as much as I would love to, I cannot control it, then I'm focusing on, and it's pointless to even focus on that, because you can't control it anyway. What is in my control is what I say, what I do, and how I act. That's what's in my control, and going towards the center. That's what's in my control. So I think those lessons are so beautiful from the Gita. So thank you.
Wonderful, folks. This is great, and clearly, all of us have gotten so much from Gita. So I want to see what we should do in the future about it. We have at least a monthly base of Gita. So there are multiple directions we can go. So I want to go into this as a discussion. So first, we can bring some questions that we may want to answer. We're not going to answer them now, but the questions that remain with you. That's one possibility. Second is that if you have specific ideas about maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that, let's put it all on the table. We're not going to decide anything today. I just want to hear from you. I mean, clearly this has been very valuable. to many, 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 many people. And I know that everything is use it or lose it. So anything good, you have to always keep building on it, because otherwise, it's not going to, that's the only way it can play a larger and larger role in your life. So look forward to any thoughts on one big questions that you may want to discuss in the future. We're not going to answer any questions today, but any questions that you want to put forth as something that we should explore, or any particular way in which we can explore this angle further. It doesn't necessarily have to be about Gita, about anything. Just any, how do we proceed from here? Any thoughts? We'll start with Joe. Joe, go ahead.
I agree with you. You use it or you lose it. And the reality is that there were so many concepts introduced that we could go back over some of the primary ones. I'm thinking like the gunas, and see how they, how they can impact, how they impact our lives, what's the importance of them. I'm familiar with them, and but it's something I've not incorporated into my daily practice, and understand, like, if I were to explain them in detail, I could only give a high level explanation of it at this point. Now I could go back and listen to the videos and learn as well. That would be one way, just certain concepts and introducing them. That would be just one suggestion. Another is there's other aspects of the Mahabharata. Could you help me with that?
Yeah,
that we could that we could explore.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I would leave that up to you. I think that would be a really worthwhile journey as well.
Wonderful. One thing that came out from many, many observations here is meditation. So I strongly recommend meditation to everybody, because that's something that you can do, and it doesn't have to be long. It can, there are many, 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 many variations of it. But so that's one thing I want to, so that's one suggestion I have, because not necessarily we have to do a meetup on it. The larger question is, how do we integrate this into our life? And I think meditation was the answer that I saw come from many, many people here. Next up is going to be Evanik. Evanik.
I agree with Joe about the gunas. I would love to explore that more. I think looking at manifest and unmanifest again, like I said, I had a familiarity with it, but I would love to go deeper with that. And studying the ultimate, I think that would, I think people would get a lot out of that. And I think I was going to say, like, maybe incorporating meditation, or different types of meditation, or the benefits of it and the importance of it too.
Yeah, that's excellent. So folks, go ahead and type exclamation mark if you would like to put something on the table. One of the directions that I went to was, I did this reading of Gitanjali, and that's actually one of the most beautiful poetry which captures these ideas and shows it in a way which is far more accessible. So that's another thing, some kind of great works of art over there. And maybe we can do something on meditation. We have done, when we started out, we had a series on meditation itself. And so maybe we can do something on meditation, and we'll look at all the concepts as well. But I want to get as many, I want to think in kind of multiple dimensions here, and I want to get any thoughts anybody has. Um, Brian talked about Mandukya Upanishad. That's a very good candidate if you want to look at like one text. It's very, very short. But we'll have to figure out how to approach that. Next up is Rupali. Rupali, go ahead.
So I really like the idea of going into the Upanishads because I think we'll be probably seeing similar.
Rupali, can you speak more into the mic?
Yeah, I can. So I like the idea of the Upanishads because then we can probably see similar principles coming back. They spiral through these texts. So we might be able to see the same concepts in a different perspective. The second thing I feel is, we've all identified different sections of the Gita that we probably, because wherever we are in our own plane of development, we kind of gravitate towards a certain aspect or part of the Gita at a particular time. So even if, we say, all right, we're going to select this particular text within the Gita to discuss. And if we can identify different pieces based on what people are saying, and then we could just have, focus discussion on those texts to kind of have a deep dive into what does it really mean. So those are my two thoughts.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I like both of them. And what we'll do is let's take all the ideas, and I think we already have a very good base, but I want to get as many ideas down, and then we can go from there. Jyoti, what do you think we can do?
I found a couple of chapters very complex, deep, and I thought we could revisit them. Like chapter 13 was, I had to go back and forth to hear that, completely and get some ideas from it. And it would be nice if we could revisit, talk about it, what we each understand, interpret it the way, we understand it. That would be very helpful.
Wonderful. Okay. So if anybody wants to suggest anything more, you can go ahead and type exclamation mark. Otherwise, I have some ideas. I mean, one thing is that we have been studying Gita together. So I think going back to Gita, parts of Gita would be a great way to do that. But instead of choosing just one thing that all of us have to look at, maybe we can have each person choose anything. Like it could be few verses, it could be any idea. Say, okay, on chapter 4, this really spoke to me, or this is what I got from it. I have this question. So each person can bring anything to the table, and we can have multiple people bring things, and we'll see what people bring. And that will be something that will be fairly easy. It will be like doing a review. By the way, my way of studying this Gita is to actually listen to it on YouTube multiple times. There is a translation that I like from what's his name? It's escaping me right now, but it's one of the more famous translations. And there is a beautiful audio of it. It takes all of 2 hours to listen to all of Gita, whole of Gita, and you can listen to it multiple times. So you can let it flow over you and you can pick up parts. So you can do that. So I was thinking of starting off next time with people bringing up any parts of Gita that they want to discuss. And then we will organize, I will start the meetup by asking people, what pieces they have, and then we'll come up with the order of going through it. if it so happens that there is a whole bunch of people who want to focus on certain things, we'll focus on it a little more. But it'll give a chance for everybody to bring to the floor things that really spoke to them. And then we can have a discussion. I mean, we'll also kind of engage ideas which we may not have engaged as deeply before, some ideas from some chapters. So that's what I was thinking of. Evanik, what do you think?
I think that's a great idea. I love the concept of having people come with their script, with the passages that they want to study more. I think you could also say, maybe some concepts that maybe they didn't understand.
Yes.
And then have them bring those as well. And then maybe we can all help each other understand those passages, or, maybe somebody else has some insight. So that could be another thing too, some of the concepts that you didn't get fully.
Excellent. And the format that we will do is that please plan on reading something. So instead of saying just this, you just go ahead. If you're shy about reading, you can just point it out, and Penny will read it. Penny always likes to read. So, or there are many people who like to read. I don't want to put Penny in this spot, but she reads so beautifully. But somebody will read. You're welcome to read yourself. I recommend that. But if you don't want to read, you can just say, look, these verses I would like to discuss, and try to choose verses which are not more than 10 verses, let's say, something like that. So it is manageable. So we can have multiple people talking about their verses. If you want to take a chapter as a whole, you can take a chapter as a whole and say, look, these are the key ideas in the chapter that I find interesting. And I want to give these samples. So you can do anything that you want. Each person will get the time to put things on the table, and everybody else will get to engage with that. So that's what we'll do next time. All right. Okay. So that's what the plan is. But I kind of yes. Let's go with Connie. Connie, go ahead. Folks would love to hear anything you want to say. So just go ahead and keep typing exclamation marks to speak. Connie.
Yes. First, I'd like to figure out why my name is changed there instead of Connie, but I'll get there. So I really liked Anna, when she read that, and I would have liked for us to have maybe paused more on that when she read it and said how it impacted her. That would have been great too. If we could have joined in maybe and said how did and I think that's what we're talking about. And also, Shrikant, your illustrations, and Joe said it, your drawings or your visual, I think bringing that up as an overview for different people, or just to remind us, that really encapsulates it very well. And I hope you bring that up again to show us, where it fits. So those are my thoughts.
Wonderful. Thank you. Connie. Really appreciate that. And I'll see what I can do. But what I want to do more than anything else during these Gita meetups is to give a chance for everybody to speak, to express what they're getting. And great point about Anna. Absolutely. Because what happens is we're trying to, this is really interesting, because what happens is that, see, we are an open forum and people join us at different times. Many of us have been doing this for a period of time, and new people join. And it is important for me to make everybody feel welcome in a way which is completely conducive and consistent with what we are doing for the meetup. So I hope that that we addressed Anna's point in some way as best as we could. And Anna, you're welcome to type an exclamation mark and bring anything up that you want. You're always welcome to do that. Next up is Mahajan. Mahajan, go ahead.
Hi, Shirikant, I'm new to this group. This is my first meeting.
Welcome.
Thank you. And so far, I have really enjoyed the discussion. I was not sure because I'm new. I have not attended any of your sessions. Are we allowed to say anything or?
Oh, yes,
yeah.
Of course.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay. I have read Gita. I'm from India, so I have read it not only there, but here too. Last year we did it. I like all the ideas that you or several people brought up. And I do like the idea where you can choose certain shlokas and read them, and then either you understand them or you want to go into depth. And if you have questions, you can ask those questions so somebody else can just, go into detail and into depth. So I do like it, but my main question was because I didn't know whether I was supposed to participate or not, or just be quiet. So I just wanted to know that in the upcoming meetings, will the newcomers be able to participate?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the
okay.
reason I started out this meetup, and I'm sorry, I did not make it clear when there was a transition, because I started out the meetup. See, we have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
And this is like we are meeting after months, after having spent like almost 1.5 years together going
Yes.
through it. So I wanted to give a chance. This is a chance for that community to express, to share with each other.
Yes, of course.
What they have gotten and what has remained.
Yes.
So it's something that is precious. So I wanted to have that happen as a starting point.
Okay.
And it was my fault that I did not very clearly say, okay, now everybody has spoken, and now the floor is anybody's who wants. And folks, anybody who wants to speak about anything about Gita is welcome to do that. Wonderful, thank you. And I look forward to your participation. We do meetups. We do meetups about 10 meetups per week here on various topics. So please explore it on 52 Living Ideas. We have a whole bunch of meetups. So look at whatever. This we are going to do only once a month at this stage. At some point, we might pick it up more, but currently it is only once a month. Thank you. Next up is going to be Joe. Joe, go ahead.
This was kind of already brought up, but it would almost require like a separate session, and I'm not sure how to approach it, but it would be in relation to chapter 13, the metaphysics of the Gita. I think
let's do something here. Let's do something here. Now, so many people have brought up chapter 13. So we have got about half an hour. So anybody who wants to talk about chapter 13, go ahead and do so. How about we let Jyoti go first, talk about what she finds interesting about chapter 13. Does that make sense, Joe? And then you can add.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I gotta find my notes, but yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Jyoti, go ahead. Would you like to share?
No.
No. Okay. All right. You can prepare. You can prepare. I'm sorry. I'm giving. What is it called? What kind of a quiz is this? This is
A
like
pop quiz.
a pop quiz. No,
Yes, you're
no,
giving
no
a
pop
pop.
quizzes in chapter 13.
So I
Nobody's
flunked already.
prepared.
No, why I'm saying no, because I was listening to it and I was feeling very disconnected with it. And I don't think I'm able to put it in words,
Yeah.
how I feel about it, but I have to listen to it several
Sure.
times before it starts making good sense to me.
Sure. No, sounds good. You know that in Indian tradition, people like Yogeshwar, they know all of this by heart. So you can wake him up in the middle of the night and say chapter 13, and he would just
Absolutely
recite it
rattle off. Yeah.
and that's the Indian tradition. So that's what that's what it. But let's go with Rupali. Rupali, go ahead. Are you going to recite? Are you going to recite chapter 13?
Oh my goodness, I wish I could do that,
In
but
Sanskrit.
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell you something very
Okay.
interesting. So for all the newcomers, I'm a Montessori teacher, and Maria Montessori, she spent 7 years in India, and she worked with the Madurai Theological Society, and she read the Bhagavad Gita. Now, she was a devout Catholic to begin with. So she had read the Bible, she knew about it. She was a doctor, a scientist at heart. So she came at it from a logical reasoning perspective also. But she knew that there is something spiritual about human beings. And when she went to India and read the Bhagavad Gita, she read chapter 13 and she said, this needs to be shared with children. Children need to know the grandeur of life and existence. And so it is part, she doesn't make any of her lessons religious or based on any particular culture, but she does have this creation story, and in that you see the grandeur of life, and she's kind of built it in the lessons. And so chapter 13 has a very special spot for me in my heart. And when I went camping, I'd shared the story before, but I'd gone camping with my students, and the first day they were happy. It was sunny, it was beautiful. They saw the woods and they were having a lot of fun. The following day it was dark and it was raining, and we went exactly to the same woods, the same path, and they were so scared because everything was foggy and they couldn't see clearly. And so, at that time I understood this chapter 13, that you can have the same nature be open and embracing and beautiful, and at the same time it can be scary and frightening. And it was just an aha moment for me. So just wanted to share that story about chapter 13. But yes, we should all read it, and maybe we start from there. I don't know.
Wonderful. I want to greet the newcomers who have come in, who are here. Martha, would you like to talk? Would you like to say anything, ask anything? Or what do you think of the discussion so far?
Oh, well, I've enjoyed listening to the discussion so far. I did have a question as
Please.
to whether there's a English translation of the Gita that you would recommend above others. Some are very literal and some are very experimental as far as the translation.
Yes, I have two recommendations. My favorite translation, English translation by far, is the one by Sri Aurobindo. I think Sri Aurobindo, in his own right, is a very deep, deep thinker. And he gets at these concepts really in a profound way. So that's the primary translation that I used. Now, I'm fortunate I can read Sanskrit. So I was reading Sanskrit and I had like Marathi translation. Marathi is a language which is based on Sanskrit. So I could fill in that. We also went through Nyaneshwar's commentary on Bhagavad Gita, which is very deep, but which is very long. So the best thing that I would recommend is Sri Aurobindo's translation. Now, the second translation that I also end up using is the Ishwaran, translation, but I never read it. I just listen to it on YouTube. So I have not found a good reading of Sri Aurobindo's translation in the audio. So for audio, I use the Ishwaran translation. There is a very good YouTube version of it, which you can listen to the entire Gita in about 2 hours. But for reading, I strongly recommend Sri Aurobindo's translation. It is available for free online, so you can just search for it. So that's what I would recommend. In addition to the straight translation, there is commentary that he has, which is profound. So that's the one that I've ended up using more. Okay, wonderful. Anybody else who has not spoken would like to speak? Let's see here. I don't want to put people on the spot, but if you folks, if you have not spoken, go ahead and type exclamation mark. Would love to hear. Brian, I know that you've been studying, Brian Allenby, that you were studying Gita and you had some good things to say about Yogeshwar's take on it. So would love to hear from you if you're up to it. Okay, I think he might have stepped away. I will message him and then we'll go from there. All right. Next up is going to be Joe. Joe, go ahead.
I was going to recommend that Rupali do chapter 13 for us. No, I'm just joking. I was just thinking about it. That I was just reading about chapter 13 a little bit now, and I guess if I mean it would be just even just it's not just chapter 13, it would be kind of covering the whole Gita's metaphysics. That would be a session onto itself. I think that would be helpful in some ways, because if you understand the metaphysics, you kind of understand the practicality, the why certain actions are taken, and that's. I mean, I think it's too philosophical for me normally, but I do think in this particular instance it would be helpful because we have the practical aspects of the Gita that we've been able to capture in our meetups. I just don't know the best way to go about approaching that, but it would give us a much deeper understanding. I mean, and it does start with 13 because I remember Yogeshwar saying, depending on how you teach chapter 13, that'll tell you the type of teacher that you have when it comes to the Gita. Whether you have somebody that's more Platonic or more Aristotelian. He didn't put it in a way, the way he explained it. So anyway, that was just something that I thought I'd add.
Wonderful. Anybody wants to say anything else? You're welcome to do so. Brian and Penny.
So I would just say through my further studies, which have really been through YouTube, I am interested in the meditation, and other people seem to be interested in that too. It piqued my interest because meditation is of interest to me because in one of the histories of yoga, goes way back to the Harappan society. They trace they include Buddha within the Vedic and Vedanta traditions, emphasizing that he placed a central role in meditation. So that really piqued my interest. Obviously, as meditation is one of the focuses in the traditions we've already looked at, but hearing that it was central to the Buddhist tradition made me want to learn more about it.
Wonderful. No, I think meditation is a very good candidate. When we started 52 Living Ideas, we had a weekly meditation meetup, and so I'll definitely look at that. Next up, and I don't know, you might have missed this comment, but when I asked Yogeshwar, what we can study next, and his answer was Mandukya Upanishad is a good place to start because it is so short and so fundamental that it is difficult to get to, but if you can find a way of doing that, that would be good. So that's one candidate if we decide to go the route of reading something. Right. Next up is going to be Connie, followed by Rupali. Connie.
Quickly, meditation to me is such a broad thing to say because there's so many different types. As meditating more years than I want to admit to, but Yogeshwar talked about Om, totally different impact on me, and the vibration of the Buddhists or the monks. So that I learned. So I wonder what type it's. I don't know how we can do one on meditation, to be honest. That's just my thoughts.
May I say something?
Please go ahead, Brian.
In this history of yoga, that's what they called this video, ran 2 hours. There's a treatise that was written sometime in the 13 or 1400s about meditation and in the yoga tradition, and exactly as Connie said, it was there were 112 different ways to meditate outlined in that book. And so that seemed rather daunting when I heard that. But then when I heard that in the Buddhist tradition, they've come down with one way. As I understand the video, they've come down with one way, but I'm totally ignorant about it as well. And the fact that they mentioned one way made it sound accessible, and that way it piqued my interest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about this, but the basic idea is that there are two large categories of meditation. One is the mindfulness meditation, which is the Buddhist way. And then there is a concentration meditation, which you will find in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. So the mindfulness meditation is all about just noticing what is happening. The concentration meditation kind of sits on the top of that. It takes that for granted. And then it's all about keeping your attention focused on the thing it should be focused on. So it's a difficult topic, but we have done it before, and we can. It's definitely possible to do it. Now, Rupali has a story. I like stories. Go ahead.
Okay.
Just a second. Wait. Mahajan had something.
Nalini.
Okay, go ahead.
Nalini.
Nalini, go ahead.
Nalini. Yeah. No, I was just going to talk about the mindful meditation. And that is different from, like you said, our meditation. I have been doing that. And for me, it was very good because you have to concentrate on things which I never thought I would. I mean, by profession, I'm a librarian. So I always listen to people rather than talking. And that was one thing I had naturally because of all these years of training. But it has taught me a lot, which and I do the other meditation too, but with the mindfulness, like you said, you do concentrate, you live in that moment, and you pay attention to what you are doing or listening. And it's very, very helpful. And out of that, now not the new, but there is also self-compassion, which we don't usually use, and especially people coming from the Indian culture, we are always thinking about others. That's what we were taught. So it's very difficult for us to think about ourselves, but it's not just us. I took a course, 8-week course for that. And it was very interesting that even in Western culture, it's not easy for anyone to think about themselves first. It was something that I didn't know. But the self-compassion teaches you how to be compassionate to yourself. And that might be something later on you may decide to go into. It's beautiful. Very nicely done.
Thank you, Nalini. Appreciate that. Next up is going to be a story.
Okay, so today one of our students, his family decided to move to another town, and so they informed me last night that today would be their child's last day at school. So that's a sad thing. But I wanted the student to have a closure. So in our morning circle, we talked about what does change mean? And every child went around the circle to share what changes have happened in their lives and how that change felt for them. So we went around, children talked about moving, children talked about, parents divorcing, children talked about changing schools and how all of that felt. Sometimes people in the family passed away. So they had talked about different changes in their lives, and they talked about how the change affected them. So at the end of circle, I read to them the first 4 lines of Gitanjali. I said, "You have made me endless, such is your pleasure. This frail vessel you empty again and again, and fillest it ever with fresh life. This little flute of a reed you have carried over hills and dales, and have breathed through it melodies eternally new." And I read this part twice to the students, and I asked them what it meant. And children went around the circle, and somebody said, "Oh, it means you are the flute, and life is playing the flute. You are emptying your brain and filling it with new changes every day. Life has its ups and downs, and every day is a new song." And I was just blown away.
Wow.
Because this was from children in grades 4th to 7th, and I've read this to adults who have said to me, "I don't get this." And the children just get it. Like, they are so pure. We have not talked Bhagavad Gita with them, we've not talked religion with them, we've not talked Gospel of John with them, but they just get it. And I said, "Okay, then, what is your song? What song are you going to sing today?" And they said, well, one student said, "My song will be of knowledge." Another student said, "Mine will be of productivity, friendship." Another child said, "Happiness." So the next child said, "Well, sadness because our friend is leaving our school." Another child said, "Joyful, accomplished, kindness, nature, and love." So, they went through this circle and talked about what that poem meant to them and how they were going to embrace the day for themselves. And at the end of the day, they all had a great day. And the child who was moving from our school left with joy, knowing that he can always come back. And I feel, when we study Gita or Gospel of John or any of these great texts, that there is that universal truth, the love between human beings, and what do we do with our lives and what action we take. I think the message in Gita is take action, don't just sit. So and so is the message even in the Bible. Like, what is your mission? Go forth. And so it was just wonderful. I mean, I have benefited a lot from these meetups. Thank you, Shrikant, for coordinating them.
Well, thank you. Now I have to read that poem fully because I can't read it half. It's impossible. So this is the first poem of Gitanjali. You have made me endless. Such is your pleasure. This frail vessel you empty again and again and fill it ever with fresh life. This little flute of reed you have carried over hills and dales and have breathed through it melodies eternally new. At the immortal touch of your hands, my little hands, sorry, at the immortal touch of your hands, my little heart loses its limits in joy and gives birth to utterances ineffable. Your infinite gifts come to me only on these very small hands of mine. Ages pass, and still you pour, and still there is room to fill. So this is just beautiful, beautiful poetry by Tagore. And I recommend it very, very highly because to me, it captures the spirit, this relationship between, no, I did these meetups on Gitanjali. So would love to hear what you thought of it. But for me, it's like this relationship between us human beings and God, you and God, that relationship. It's the same thing with Krishna and Arjuna. And it is shown in such a great variety. It is a passerby who passes by and you don't even notice. And that is God. Somebody who comes knocking at your door. Somebody whom you yearn for, but has not come yet. And you're kind of waiting. Some that you try to join in the song and you completely fail. Some suddenly at some point you are singing and you know that the God is taking pleasure in your singing or in your work, and you call him friend. He comes in the middle of the night, sits by your bed, you dream of him, and you open your eyes and he's gone. He comes to you on a chariot and you're expecting this great gift, but instead he asks you, what do you have for me? I mean, it's just so many different variations throughout Gitanjali and through all of it, saying, what are you doing in this dark temple? Open your eyes. Your God is not before you. He is with the farmers who are tilling the field. Get your clothes dirty and be with God and be with others. It goes into, the child saying to the mother, with all these fine clothes and fineries, these are prisons because it is stopping me from enjoying the healthful dust and enjoying the great fare of human life. There are so many variations, and all of this is God, and all of this is us. And you see these great variations, different tunes. There is sadness, there is joy, there is anticipation, there is love, there is fear. But underneath it all, there is no doubt that you belong with God, that you will be with God, whatever may appear to you at this point of time. And that it is the same as being with others. So there is this profound idea of namaste, saying the God in me greets the God in you. That is the base of it all. So that's what I got from Gitanjali. Rupali.
That was very beautifully said. So whenever I read that first poem of Gitanjali, I'm reminded of two other poems. One is Song of Myself by Walt Whitman. His first poem just talks about how we are part of the universe, and every atom that belongs to you belongs to me too. That, you know, we have the same, and this talks about the same. And the other is by William Blake. It's the Auguries of Innocence. And in that he says, to see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. And then the poem goes on, but these 4 lines just capture the same essence.
Wow. All right. Thank you, Rupali. And on that note, folks, it is so wonderful to share this journey with all of you. I'm just tremendously grateful that all these amazing people show up. And Yogeshwar also, by the way, just showed up like this. Okay. So, and it happens like in the Gospel of John, Gary also just showed up, you know, and he was very happy, you know, Yogeshwar and Gary, because actually, you know, I want to say a few things about Yogeshwar. It's very rare, actually. He's a very rare person because he has the approach to learning, which is core of the Indian tradition of learning. That you basically, obviously, you learn everything and you try to know everything. You try to know everything as well as you possibly can. And always recognize that whatever you know is always limited and you're always trying to do more and more and more. Second, he also wanted to communicate with people. See, many people, you know, this is, you know, many people have this, like, if they know something, they think that, okay, I know something and this person doesn't know. He actually believed in the namaste, where he says, okay, if somebody wants to know, I will try my best to communicate with them. Now, he is from the Indian tradition, and he was very much aware that communicating to a Western audience is difficult. And he went out of his way. And you can see his progress. Like my mother pointed out this to me, because like I did not notice it because I was going through it in progression. So she pointed out, did you notice that how he has got, you know, how he has become so much better than when he started out with? And it was actually true. Not that his understanding of the material had improved, but his ability to communicate, that had improved dramatically over the meetups. So it was, you know, truly magnificent. And I think we worked very well together as a team, which I thoroughly enjoyed, because my job was always to see the audience and to say, okay, would this be accessible to everybody? And I would go ahead and put it in ways. I would add things, you know, he knew the topic much better than I did. But I thought that I knew the audience better. So what I was trying to do was that I thought I knew enough of the topic. I cheated, I tried to read the Sanskrit. I tried to read like Marathi translations of it. I used Naneshwar, which was really the breakthrough for me. He's the contemporary of Aquinas, very deep thinker whose purpose was to make Gita accessible to people who couldn't even read and write. And he does that spectacularly. So Naneshwari is far more easier to understand. It is far more easier to understand the core principles of Gita through Naneshwari than Gita itself, because it is written for the common man. It is written for anybody who can't even read and write. They can get it. Okay, that's the standard. So I used all of that to kind of be able to access that. And then I tried to communicate. So I thought that the teamwork worked really, really well. All right. So let's see. Joe has something. And Jyoti, it's wonderful to have you back. It's always great. Joe.
Thank you.
Yes. Jyoti, you want to say anything else?
I want to say good night.
I know it's late for you. Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Yes, Joe.
No, I mean, I just wanted to comment very briefly. There are, individuals that we're very fortunate to have been able to embark on this journey with, whether it be the Tao with Jason and Aman, whether it be the Gospel of John with Gary, or with the Gita with yourself and Yogeshwar. And I'll throw some of my Stoic authors that we've had here in the beginning that I've been on trips with. These are all individuals that live to learn, and they live their value system, and it comes out in how they engage with us. And what it is it's as rejuvenating as the text itself. It really is, because you can see that Yogeshwar lives this stuff. You can see that that Aman and Jason, that they live the Tao, or they embody the Tao. And you see that and Gary loves the Bible, and loves the Gospel of John in particular, but he loves the Bible in general. And then the Stoic authors that I mentioned, they live their principles, and they love what they do, and they do it for the right reasons. That makes this learning, that makes this taking in this information, it's infectious, and it's as inspiring, as I said, as it's as inspiring as the text itself. So very much appreciate all those individuals that actually that helped bring all these different philosophies of life to us, because it's true, they embody it. Obviously you're included in that, but I mean, it's like, so.
Thank you. Joe, I mean, I like Jyoti's term rejuvenation, because what that means is that the life returning, you're being almost reborn, because what happens is that all of us get ossified in our habits, in our emotions, in our thoughts. These encounters with these texts allows you to see the life, the function. Otherwise, we get too caught up with the forms and lose the meaning behind them. Even if these are the forms, that the words that came from this function, we lose that. And rejuvenation is all about returning back to the center, going back to the root, as Tao would put it, and growing from there. And this is what, all these works do. All right, folks. So I want to tell you about some amazing, amazing meetups coming up this weekend. On Saturday, Harold Nelson is going to be back, and he's going to be talking to us about his design flight school. That's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And then on Sunday, we have got our Bucky series, 9 p.m. And that's going to be Corby Erner, who is one of really, really powerful thinkers on Bucky's geometry. And he's going to be talking about synergetics, a deep dive. So far, folks, we've been dipping our toes in the water. It's time to take the plunge. And that's what we're going to do. I'm also pleased to tell you about that I'm going to go back. I and Becky are going to go back to Tom Miller, because I went through, he launched his website almost the day after we went to him the first time. And then we went back and did a walkthrough of his websites. And I've integrated those videos into his website. So it's very easy for anybody who is trying to approach the website to approach that. But then I realized that he had gone through something really spectacular very briefly. Now, I knew that it was spectacular, but I didn't want to go away from our plan of producing this videos to walk through the website, because I didn't want to distract. But it's really his idea of the glossary. He has a short list of ideas that are the core ideas behind his entire work. He has put it in the glossary form, but there are a couple more things. So we are going to be looking at core ideas of Tom Miller. Some of them are listed in the glossary page. I don't know which portal. It's one of the portals has it. And we're going to go through them one by one. And he's just going to talk about those ideas. And then I will ask him some questions. Becky will ask him some questions. And once we've gone through all, it's not going to be more than 10 ideas, somewhere between 6 to 8 ideas, I would say. It's a very deep ideas. These are also fundamental ideas to Bucky's work. So it's a way of having somebody who has spent 50 years working on those ideas to explain to you how they work. So that's going to be on not this Sunday, the next Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So really looking forward to that. All right, folks, thank you very much. And thank you for all the newcomers, Nalini, Anna, and Martha. Welcome, and hope to see you soon. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Night.
Thank
Good night.
you.